Hello, everybody, and welcome to Mix and Match Club. I love this book. So this is our last class where we'll be going over new stitches. In November and December, we'll be talking about blocking and making your strips match, putting them together and adding a border and all those sorts of things in the last two classes. So I have combined in today's class, we're going to go over bobbles, popcorns, and puffs, which are all raised, mostly round stitches that add a lovely texture to your project, but they're all done a little bit differently. So I want to go over the differences with those and show you some examples. There are lots of bobble patterns. There's lots of puff patterns in here, and there's lots of popcorn patterns. How you make the stitches are the same. How you distribute them, it can be a little bit different. So, but once you know how to make them, you can do any of the strips in here. So we're going to start with the giant bobble, which is number 86. It is a symmetrical pattern. That's what this one is here. Giant bobbles. So you can see they're fairly well raised and but squishy. They are on the back. This is what it looks like. So there are indentations on the back. It's not, there's definitely a place where I think as a little kid you would poke your fingers into, which is kind of fun. So very fun. So we're going to start with giant bobbles. And again, anything that's listed as a bobble, like on number 87 is bobble bubbles, boblets, contrast bobbles, or will all be made the same way. So then there is a project in here, which I think is so cute, using bobbles to make a scarf. And this uses the strip that does a giant contrast bobble. So your background is one color and your bobble is another color. But how you make the bobble is the same no matter which pattern you use, okay? But that little rainbow scarf has had my attention since we first had the book. All right, let's switch over to the camera. Okay, so this is giant bobbles. I have done a few rows of the repeat here. It goes this way. And I will pick it up from, I think I got all the way through the repeat here. We can start again and just finish this row. So there's definitely a right and a wrong side to this. If you are going to do the foundation single crochet, instead of chaining and doing a row of single crochet, then you will do a multiple of 6 stitches plus 5. If you're going to do the chain and then a row single, it's a multiple of 6 plus 6. Okay, so that's the magic math for that. The chain 1 and the chain 2 do not count as stitches. Your turning chains do not count as stitches, which tells us that we will be, when we make our first stitch, we won't be skipping any stitches. Let me get my right color here so I can rejoin. One second. Pull that through and what I did. I think I want to have this one in my blanket, so I want to. It was fairly mindful. The other thing you need, mindless, I'm sorry. The other thing you need to know about these kinds of stitches where you're creating all this extra texture, they do require more yarn. They are going to eat your yarn because you're putting a lot of stitches into one space to get that raised texture. So if you are short on yarn, if you're ever making something and you're short on yarn, adding puffs, bobbles, or popcorns is not going to be your friend there. All right, so let me join my yarn. Okay. So we're going to start here on row 2, which is a wrong side row. And we're going to start with a chain 2. And I think, yeah, I'm in the right spot here. Okay. So I've gone all the way through the repeat. The repeat is rows 2 through 5. So I've gone all the way through and I'm starting row 2 again. So you're going to do chain 2 does not count as a stitch. Sorry. I'm situated here. There it is. So we're going to go into the very first stitch that our chain 2 is coming out of. And then we're going to ignore the chain 2 that we made. So this starts with 2 double crochets. So we're going into the first 2 stitches. And then we're going to make a bobble. And up above, she's got the directions on how to make the bobble, the special stitch. What you need to know about bobbles is that you make the bobble on a wrong side row, but you're not going to see it until you flip it over onto the right side, okay? And we'll see how this works. All right, so we are going to, I have to remind myself because I just finished doing puff stitches. We're going to yarn over, start with a yarn over twice. Okay, we're going to go into the next stitch. And we're going to pull up a loop. So I've got 4 loops on. I'm going to yarn over and pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2. So I have 2 loops left. And I'm going to do that 5 more times. Yarn over twice, go back into the same stitch. Pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2, through 2. I'm going to do this until I have 11 here. I'm going to make sure I'm doing this right. Yep. Through 2, through 2. If you are a tight crocheter, you're really going to want to make sure that you're not, that you're trying to be a little bit on the loose side, because eventually we have to pull through all of these stitches. And if you are tight, these will be hard to make sure you're catching every loop. And if you don't catch every loop, your bobble will fall apart. I'll show you that here in a second. And we've got 2, 4, 6, 8. I'm going to make sure I'm doing this right. Hold on. Yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, draw through 2 loops twice. 5 more. Oh, I'm sorry, 7 loops on the hook, not 11. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I did 1 too many, so let's take that one off. I apologize. 7 loops on the hook. Then yarn over, and we're going to pull through all 7 loops. Okay. So we've got all these double crochets. Well, they're kind of tall double crochets. Now we're all back down to 1 stitch. We only got 1 loop on our hook. And now we're going to do 5 double crochets. So yarn over, find your next stitch, and make your double crochet. And it's going to pull the top of that bobble you just make down, and it's going to push it to the other side, because all of those stitches have to go somewhere. So that was 1 double, 2, 3, 4, now we're going to make another bobble. Let me zoom in a little bit, and I'll do this one just a hair slower. So yarn over twice, go into the next stitch, yarn over and pull up a loop. So I've got 4 loops. Yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2. Now I'm going to do that 5 more times. We're doing it a total of 6 times, but you will end up with 7 loops because you always start with 1 loop on your hook. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So every time you make one, you add another loop to your hook. It should be the last. 2, 4, 6, 7. Okay. So I pull it down like this, which gives me a nice, if you can see, a nice opening to pull my hook all the way through. So yarn over, catch your yarn, I turn it down, and I'm pulling fairly strongly there so that I can just glide my hook all the way through, catching all the loops. Do not, and I have done in some patterns where they have you doing a chain right here to kind of give it a little bit of a top. This pattern does not account for that. So you don't want to do that. Even though we made all of these stitches in there, when we pull it through all the loops, we're still going back down to 1 stitch. So that bobble is still just 1 stitch. And then 5 double crochets. Since we're yarning over twice, it makes it a little bit taller than a regular double crochet. And that's why when you do the next double crochet, it pulls the top down, which forces the bobble to pop out. Okay. 1, 2, 3, 4. So this particular pattern makes obviously a large bobble. The fewer doubles that you make, or the fewer times that you do it, the smaller it will be. You could do it with shorter stitches and it would be a little bit more compact. But the technique is the same. It's putting several stitches into 1 stitch and then bringing them all back down to 1 stitch. So we're not finishing any of these triples. We're not doing the final yarn over pull through 2 like you would when you do a triple. 2, 4, 6, and 1. We're saving that final pull through for the end and doing them all together. 2, 4, 6, 7. Yarn over, pull down, pull them all through. And 5, 1, 2, 1, 2, and that's the last one. Six, one more. I have my 7 loops. Yarn over, pull down, twist your hook down, pull them through all 7. And then this row finishes with 2 double crochets, which is how we began the row. So then row 3 starts as a chain 1, does not count as a stitch. And when I turn it over, it has popped all those bobbles forward. So now we're on a right side row, and every right side row is going to be doing a row of single crochet all the way across. Now you want to make sure that you are not missing the top of your bobble stitch. So I want to show you that. All right, so we had finished, we had finished with 2 double crochets. So I know I'm going to have to do 2 singles before I get to the bobble. So the very first one, since our chain one does not count as a stitch, is right here. And one single, two singles. Now the next one's the top of the bobble. I'm going to twist it so you can see. Okay. So it's a little bit of a, it's going to look like kind of like one of the legs of our triples that we did. That's gotten pulled over a little bit. It's definitely the chain, it's definitely the top of the stitch. Remember, when you're turning your work back and forth, the top of your stitch is always slightly to the left of the stitch, okay? So make sure you are not missing that stitch because your stitch count won't work out correctly. So the first time you do one of these rows, I suggest you do, when you finish your row singles, count to make sure that you still have the correct number of stitches. So we have, what do we have? 6 plus 5. Remember how many I did? I think I must have done 19. No, 23. Okay, here we go, coming to another bobble. So it's one, it really looks like one of the sideways stitches. So just make sure you're catching that. And then for this particular strip, we are making alternating rows of bobbles. So row 2 had me making 2 double crochets in a bobble. Row 4 has me making 5 double crochets in a bobble. That way they are, they're staggered. But otherwise everything else is the same. Your right side rows are always single crochet in this particular pattern, and you make your bobbles on the wrong side. And these are giant bobbles, just like the name implies. Any questions about bobbling? Let's see. If you were to do one of the other stitches, like I'm just going to look over to number 87, Bobble Bubbles. The only difference is how many times do you yarn over and pull up a loop? Are you yarning over twice first? Like this one, we're giant because we yarned over twice and we pulled through until we had 7 loops on the hook. For the Bobble Bubbles, you're not starting with a yarn over. They're a little bit more, 2 yarn overs. You're just starting with 1. So the bobbles are a little more compact, and you're only doing it till you have 5 loops on the hook. So it's 2 less stitches. So that's how you adjust the size of the bobbles. How, what kind of stitch are you using? These are using a triple to make them, so which makes them taller. And how many times do you go in? I could make these even fatter. I could have gone and done a couple more in there if I wanted to. So you can play with that a little bit because it always is going to go back down to 1 stitch. So no matter how many you put in there, as long as you resolve it down to 1 stitch by yarning over and pulling through all your loops, you'll be good to go. So like I said, Bobble Bubbles number 87 is awfully cute. It's the bobbles that make a bubble shape. And then Boblets are very short little ones. It's actually quite a nice texture stitch. And then you can do it with 2 colors. We've done that before where you're going to be carrying your yarn across, laying it across the stitches and working over it, and then making your bobbles in a different color. And then the giant contrast bubbles. So the same kind of thing we did here, but changing colors. And that's if you wanted to make that scarf with your scraps would be great. Or you could do this in any weight of yarn, obviously, but I just love the rainbow. It's really fun. All right. We're going to move on to puffs. puffs, puffs, puffs. So I'm going to show you little puffs, number 91. Again, this is another alternating or staggered puff. They definitely look different than a bobble. For this one, it is, if you're going to do the foundation single crochet, you're going to use a multiple of 4 stitches plus 5 extra. So I did on this one, I believe, I didn't write it down this time and I should have. 16, I think I did 21 on this one to get my little work across here. Okay. So I've done a full repeat. Again, it's rows 2 through 5 that make it. So I'm ready to start my row 2 again. As with the bobbles, it does look a little bit different on the back. You don't get that indentation. It also doesn't stand up or out quite as much as a bobble does. Okay. But you are going to create the puff on the wrong side of the fabric. All right, so this is row 2. Starts with the chain 1. None of the turning chains count as stitches here. I'm going to do 2 single crochets and then a puff. So into my first one. 1, 2. And then she's got it just she's got a description of it. This is the one that has 11 loops on your hook. All right, so you're going to yarn over and go into the next stitch, pull up a loop. You're going to do that 5 times. So I'm not continuing the stitch. I'm just going to make more stitches, all right, until I have 11 of these on the hook. So that was 1. I need to do a total of 5. Yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull up a loop. Now, this is a little harder to count 11 because they bunch up on each other. I found it was a little easier to count my stitches. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 11. Okay. So this is a little tighter. We've got more on here. So again, if you're tight when you're crocheting, work on loosening up on this because it will be hard to yarn over and pull all the way through. This is one where because there's so many stitches, you really want to pull down. And if it doesn't pull through smoothly, there's a chance you might miss some and then your puff would fall apart. Okay. So then we made our puff stitch and now we're going to do 3 singles. So again, we're not finishing, once we pull through, we're not finishing the stitch with a chain or anything. But here is the top of our stitch right there. That's the top that we'll be going into, which really looks like kind of the side of one of our puffs there. All right, now we're going to do 3 singles. So that's going to pull it back down. So when you make the puff or the bobble in a taller stitch and then go back to a shorter stitch, that's what pulls it down so that your rows stay nice and even and forces the extra work to the front like that. All right, so here we go. And this is how I do them. I want to do this a total of 5 times. I got tired of counting my loops. So yarn over, that's 1, 2. I'm really pulling up on that to make sure it's not tight. 3, 4, and 5. Yarn over and pull it all the way through. And then 3 again. 1, 2, 3. 2, 3, 4, over. 1, 2, 3, and one more. 1, 2, 3, 4. This one I made a little tighter, kind of on purpose, because if I feel like it's not going to catch all of them, and it did, it pulled through really smooth. If you get about halfway through and you find it's just not, like you're going to miss something, it's easier just to undo it and redo it. And then finish with 2 singles. All right, and then row 3 is a right side row. Chain 2. So on this one, we're going to do double crochets on our right side row. So all of our puffs push through to the front, and you're going to do doubles all the way across. 2. So now we're at the puff. There's the top of the stitch right there. And it lies across the, the rest of the strands of the puff. So it really looks like you're going into a strand, but it's really the top of the stitch. Make sure you don't miss that. So there are, I'll show you at the end. There is a crochet blanket designer that uses, I think she uses popcorn stitches, but you could use puffs, you could use bobbles to create designs or words. She lays it all out, and you can use graph paper and design your own, but this would be a really fun way to add initials or a name. If you wanted to in your strip, you're making a blanket for somebody. You would have to do a little planning ahead of time, but I would help you with that if you want. First top of the puff. And 2 more. And I'll show you an example of that in the So that completes row 3. So then we would have row 4, which would be another staggered row, and then another row of row 5. I think it's I like the way they all kind of lean one direction. So it's a nice texture, and it's visually looks, I think, kind of nice. Let me zoom out a little so you can see the 2 together. So these are really straight up and down, and these have more of a lean to them, which I think is kind of nice. They are often used in patterns as a flower design. You can orient them to become a flower design. And I do think this is the only strip in here that uses puffs that she gives you. But I feel like if you liked one of the other designs, you could do puffs instead of bobbles if you liked that. Or popcorns, if you like that sort of thing. Oh no, there's some other ones. I'm sorry. There's puffy mountains. There are more. There's perky puffs. I mean, how fun is that? Perky puffs. There's lacy puffs. All very fun. I do like drunk popcorns. That's just fun. Let's see. And then I think that's it for the puff stitches. All right, so the last one I wanted to show you is popcorns. So popcorns are a little bit, they're made differently. there was a lot of similarities between the bobble and the puff in that you make them on the wrong side and they get pushed through. And it's putting several loops on your hook and doing a final yarn over and pulling through. Popcorns are made differently. You make the popcorn on the right side instead of the wrong side, and then it stays on the right side. So the one I'm demonstrating here is number 92, Popcorn Diamonds. So I got partially through the beginning of my diamond, so I'm going to pick it up where I left off. This one has, it tells you to chain 20. So if you're going to do a foundation single crochet, you would do 19 foundation single crochet stitches. So I have 19 stitches going across here. Okay. So I have completed, let's see. I believe I have completed, I've completed row 7. I'm going to start with row 8, which is a wrong side row for me. Oh no, I've completed row 8. I apologize. I'm on row 9, which is a right side row, and I will be making popcorns. So I'm on row 9. So I chain 2. Your wrong side rows for this particular pattern are all single crochets on the wrong side. So I will show you that when we get across this. Again, I'm on row 9, chain 2, 7 double crochets, and then a popcorn. So I'm creating a design, a diamond design. So this one has a longer repeat because it's not just staggered, it's more of a design. And I believe the repeat is rows 3 through 14 to complete the whole diamond design. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. And the next stitch, I'm going to popcorn. All right, so she gives you a description. You're going to work 5 double crochets into the next stitch. 5 complete double crochets. So I'm going to yarn over, pull through 2, pull through 2. There's 1, 2. So I'm going back into the same stitch. 3. I'm working it down until I get down to 1 loop on my hook. I've done 3, 4, and 5. So here's how they differ. So now I've got this little fan shape, or the beginning of a shell shape. I'm going to pull up a loop. I'm going to remove my hook. And I'm going to go back to the very first double I made in this stitch. So here's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Remember, when you're staying on the right side, the top of the stitch is just to the right of the post. I'm going to insert my hook underneath the top of the first double, put that loop back on my hook, and I'm going to draw it through. I'm not going to yarn over. I'm just going to draw it back through, like slip stitching it closed. Okay, so that's what gathers the top of it, taking it back down to 1 stitch, and it forces the popcorn to the front. Okay, we'll do that again. We're going to do 3 double crochets now. We're not relying on the next stitch to pull the stitch down. The taking the hook out and finishing it is what really forms the shape. So all of these stitches are all doubles. They don't have to be different heights. So I'm going to do 5 double crochets in the next. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, pull up a loop, and I do that so that I don't unravel a stitch. Go back to the top of the very first double I put in there. So there's the first one, and the top of the post, the top of the stitch is just to the right of it. Get my loop back in there, tighten it up on my hook, and just pull it all the way through. And it forces it to the front. All right, and then 3 more. Yes. Oh no, I'm doing 7 more because I'm at the different row. So that was all of the popcorns for that row. 3, 4, 6, 7. So it does bring them, it kind of tightens them up, gathers them up on the top. So they have a slightly different shape than puffs, or I think they look most likely more like bobbles, but they're not quite as round. It gives you an idea. You could do more doubles in there if you wanted it to be more full. To make them a little wider, you could do that. You could put 7 in there, however many you wanted. And it would definitely fill it up. Then the wrong side row of this is singles going all the way back. Again, chain 1 doesn't count as a stitch. Let me work over to a popcorn stitch so you can see what it looks like. This is the one I think is going to look most like just a regular stitch, because of the way it's created. And I did 7. I'm going to make sure I'm ending on the right one. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So this one is my one. So it looks, it's just right there. Looks like a regular stitch. Where it's and the gathering up is underneath it. So make sure you don't go into that, and then you go into the next stitch. We have 1, 2, 3, and then popcorn. 1, 2. Yep. What I said I wasn't going to do. 1, 2, 3. All the way across. So they've got a little bit of a different shape, a little more pointy, a little more oval, I should say, than bobbles. But you could use these to make any kind of designs. She uses a lot of popcorns in here. She does little single crochet ones here. These chicanes are little single crochet popcorns, where you work 4 single crochets into the stitch, and then you remove the hook, go to the first one and pull it through. So you'll get a much lower profile, but it's still a nice textured look. And then the other, this one was the drunk popcorns, which I think is just a hilarious thing. So they're every row. I don't believe that there is, let's see. Oh, she's just got them very close together. So she also talks about at the top of the strips about how to block these. So we'll talk about that next time, but you can, they do kind of lean a little bit naturally to the side, but you can block them so that they stand up straight if you want to. And we'll do that when we do our blocking next month. They do have a little bit of a lean to them, whereas the bobbles and the puff, well, the puffs definitely have a lean, but the bobbles are much more straight up. So again, the difference between a bobble, a puff, and a popcorn is a bobble and a puff are always worked on the wrong side, and a popcorn is made on the right side. If you were going to do something, I wanted to share that one particular designer. And I think she uses popcorn. Let me pull up the screen and I can show you. She does a ton of blankets. And I think I'm always attracted. They're just so cute to me. I think they're so, the one I'm pulling up happens to be one of my favorites. And she comes out with new designs all the time. Getting to the right page. I think she uses here she is. She's got pages and pages. Jody Pyote is her name. Let me pull up one that would be easy to see. On the screen. She does them for all different themes. One that's got why I was so attracted to this stuff. So this is, I love this little piggy blanket. Let me make it a little bit bigger. So she uses the popcorn stitches to outline all of her designs and then create, different motifs. They're adorable. So her name is Jody Pyote. And let me show you one that's got words. She's got nearly every animal. Here we go. The little goose one.
That's great.
They're so fun. So she uses them to do the words. And these are done, I believe, if I'm correct, in sections. So like each one of these would be one section and then you would seam it together. So you don't have a giant blanket going with you all the time, but she spells out words. She's got designs that separate. One is cuter than the next. She's got them for weddings. She's got them for baby. She's got them for Christmas. I like the wedding one, I think is so cute. Again, all done with popcorn stitches to create the effect. So this has long been one of my, I've wanted to make that piggy blanket. I don't know why. I don't know. I just love pigs, I guess. For so long, and I love hot pink is one of my favorite colors, but she's got pages of these in every theme you can imagine. And they're always well tested. She's got several Christmas ones. There's one with a big Christmas gnome on it that I also love. Some are just designs. Here's all the different alphabet blocks. Monster, so cute. Raccoon. Oh, who doesn't love a raccoon?
She has a great imagination as well.
She
Then.
really does. And she comes out with new patterns all the time.
Wow.
Some are just words.
Alphabet play.
Yeah, this one. So, sorry.
Yeah.
We made a wish and you came true. I mean, how cute.
That's beautiful.
Yeah, there really are. And I kind of like that it's in pieces because you don't have to do the whole thing. You could make, you could put it together and make something smaller. You could do it as a pillow.
Sort of like what you do at granny squares.
Exactly.
When you put them together at the end. Yeah.
What is that Christmas gnome? He was so cute. So I highly recommend her stuff. They're just fun. They're well written and they're well tested. I know we've had a few people who've made her patterns. And a lot of fun. She does do some pillows as well. So you don't have to do it as a full blanket. And this one's cute too. So it really incorporates a lot of what we've done in that you could do it with multicolors. You could do with the textured stitches. Just, another way you could see it where she kind of did this in panels. So you could take what you've learned in here and put it onto something else. So, and I'm almost positive she uses the popcorn stitches in this, so that they're all worked on the right side, because you're following a chart to make sure that it works out. It would be hard to see if it was on the wrong side all the time. So, anyway, so she's got super cute stuff. I know she's been very responsive when we've had to contact her about anything. She's 160 different designs in here, so I recommend. You guys have any questions?
I don't think so.
All right.
That was fun.
Yeah, thank you.
They are fun. They are fun.
I always. Oh, I'm sorry. Wow.
That's okay.
Oh, look at your bobbles.
Well, I was playing while you were teaching.
Oh, good. I want to see. Hold it up again.
Oh, it was.
I think I made the mistake of putting a stitch at the top.
Yeah, I just
try to close
some
them.
puffs and some bobbles and popcorns.
Oh yeah, I love it.
Yeah, absolutely. I love it. Yep.
Yeah.
Perfect. All right. So
thank you.
You're very welcome. We'll be back next month with finishing. We'll talk about seaming and finishing strips to make sure they match and all of that kind of stuff, which means I have got to actually finish some strips.
I'm thinking I should make a strip, at least one.
At least one. Yes, exactly. At least one. All right. Well, you guys have a good week.
You too. Thank you, Pam.
You're welcome. We'll see you later.
Yes.
Okay.
Have a good night.
You too. Bye-bye.